EES, which is pronounced ease, is an acronym for Engineering Equation Solver. The previous videos in this section discussed the basics of entering and solving equations and some of the basic features around using ease. In this video, we're going to learn about some of the more advanced, or at least some of the less well-known features that are really useful when using ease, and these features are listed here. The first topic we're going to look at is the ability to enter active hypertext into the comments in the equations window. So ease will automatically recognize hypertext links that begin with any of the entries here. And so, for example, we could enter this hypertext link, and you'll notice that it becomes a link right from the equations window to that web page. A summary of the recognized hypertext links is provided here. One of the things you can see is that you can provide hyperlinks directly to various parts of the ease program itself. So, for example, if I put this hypertext link in the equations window and enter a couple of equations, when I solve and now click on that link, it takes me directly to the solution window. Next, we'll talk about some of the features of the equations window itself. So one of these features is what's called the hint window, and basically this is just a way of getting information about variables in the equations window just directly in the equations window. So if I select a variable right here in the equations window, what you'll see is that underneath the variable you'll find its most recent value, and if there were units assigned to the variable, you'd see those units there as well. At the bottom of the equations window, we have what's called the status bar. If you look at the status bar, there's a whole bunch of different panels here, each indicating a different thing. The first panel indicates whether you're using the US or the European keyboard setting. We can toggle between those using the $keyboard directive, and you'll see that the indicator in the first panel changes between US and EU. The next panel just displays the line and the character on that line at which the cursor is positioned, which is handy if you're trying to navigate a large program. The various values of the current settings are displayed in some of the subsequent panels on the status bar, and this includes things like whether word wrap is turned on or off, whether overwrite or insert is activated, and whether caps lock is turned on and off. So, for example, if I click the mouse button in any of these different panels, I can actually toggle between the different settings. So if I click the mouse button right here in the caps lock panel, I can actually go from caps lock being off to caps lock being on. So the next panel shows what the current unit system is set to. After that, you have a panel that tells you whether or not a window showing any warning messages that might be generated when ease calculates will come up or not. You can turn that on or off by just clicking in that window. And the next one is the same thing, but for unit checking, and then for complex algebra. All of these topics will be covered in later tutorials. The last panel here indicates whether or not syntax highlighting is turned on or off, and that's going to control whether ease highlights things like function names and keywords in the equations window. And that actually brings us to the next topic, which is equations and display preferences. So many of the characteristics of the equations window can be altered using the preferences dialog, which is accessed by selecting preferences from the options menu, and then you can see all these little tabs at the bottom. If we select the syntax tab, you'll bring up the dialog shown here. In this window, I can change the format that's used to display recognized function names, ease keywords, and ease constants in the equations window. So here I'm specifying that all functions are bold and capital, and the same thing for the keywords, and any constants will be shown in red. So now when I type in something that ease recognizes as a function, so for example ABS is the absolute value, or as a constant, so PI hashtag is a constant, you can see that those will be highlighted in the specified syntax. Beneath that, you can see that there are some options relating to whether or not a line break indicator is used. So if we have selected word wrap in the status bar, then what that's going to mean is that long equations in the equations window will be wrapped around. And here's an example of a very long equation, and you can see that it's automatically wrapped around. If I select display line break indicator, then every time that equation gets wrapped around, there'll be a red hyphen that indicates that this line is a continuation of the line above. If you don't do that, then those line break indicators are taken away. Now finally, you have the display uniform case for variable names selection, and that basically is going to say that you're going to use the same case for variable names as they are originally entered, right? So remember that ease is case insensitive. So for example, in this system of equations, the lowercase a and the uppercase a are actually the same variable, and that can be confusing. If I select this option, then all instances of the variable a will be displayed with the same case. In this case, it'll be the lowercase because that's the one that was originally typed in. Underneath that, you have tab stops, which are fairly self-explanatory. You can enter up to 5 different tab stops here, and you can change the units of the tab stops. And of course, that's really useful for entering comments that are all aligned, or if you're doing things that are nested, like duplicate loops, then you'll want that logic to be clear, and you do that with tab stops. You can also set tab stops using the $tab stops directive, which is probably maybe even a better way of doing it. There's some additional display settings that you can get to if you just click the display tab here. You can set the font type and the size, and you can select other things about the colors and so forth. One thing that would be handy if you tend to do a lot of late night programming is that you can actually dim the background color for the different windows, and you do that with this screen background slider. So maybe you want to make it some shade of gray so that it's not so bright in a dark room. In a large ease program, you may find it convenient to be working on one section of the code while you're viewing a different one, and professional versions of ease allow you to do this using what's called the splitter bar. So let's see how this works by opening a large program. So if we go to the ease example problems and select psychrometric functions, and in that folder we'll select using psychrometric functions in a supermarket model. And this example is actually a pretty large ease program, so it's possible you may want to use the splitter bar to work on it. And what you do is you select the red rectangle and you adjust its position to create 2 sections as shown here. The splitter bar divides the vertical scroll bar into 2 sections, and the position of the splitter bar is indicated by the red rectangle on the vertical scroll bar. Initially, the splitter bar is at its uppermost position, which indicates that there's only one section, but then you can adjust it as you see here. In the professional version of ease, it's also possible to password protect your equations window so that only you can edit it. If you want to do that, you right click on the equations window and you select protected from the resulting pop-up menu. At that point, you'll be prompted to enter and then re-enter a password, after which the background color will change, which indicates that the text is now read-only unless you know the password. Any subsequent attempt to edit the protected regions of the equations window won't be allowed until you unprotect that text, and you do that by right-clicking on it and selecting protected, and then enter the password that you chose. Finally, the use of key variables can be really handy for very large programs. If we go to the solution window in this program, you're going to see that it has many variables, and they're listed in alphabetical order, but it could be difficult to quickly identify and look at a small subset of variables that are of particular interest. So if you want to focus attention on a particular variable, the easiest thing to do is just highlight its appearance within the solutions window. So we can do that here. You can put a box around it, for example. But even better is you can select a subset of these variables in the solution window and make them key variables. So let's select a variable of interest and click the key variable checkbox, and at that point you get an edit box where you can write some kind of descriptive comments about the variable. And when you select OK, what you're going to see is that there's a new tab now right next to the solutions window, which allows access to what's called the key variables window. And this is where all of the variables that you've identified as key variables are placed, along with whatever descriptive comments that you chose to put there. You can drag these variables around to put them in whatever order makes sense, and you can actually customize this key variables window in a bunch of different ways to make it look professional, like sort of a report about your solution. This is one of a series of tutorials meant to describe the operation of the Ease software. If you want to get more information about Ease, obtain the software, or access more of these tutorials, please go to the website fchart.com. These tutorials are excerpted from the book Mastering Ease, which can also be obtained from the fchart website.